Hi, this is Dr. Nikki, and I'm here just really to talk about word problems. I love word problems. Everybody knows that. I'm writing books on word problems. I'm doing a lot of conferences on problem solving. And problem solving is, word problems is in a part of problem solving. I want to talk about your word problem workstation, and really all I want to emphasize, this is the K2 section, I want to emphasize concrete pictorial abstract, because that's huge. So in your word problem station, first of all, your word problem should be scaffolded because there are different levels of word problems. From K to 2, there are 20 levels, and kids are working at different levels. So you should have word problems, and they should be scaffolded, and they should have a number and the type of problem. I actually got these from a school in Houston that was doing some really great work. So you want to have cards with different word problems, and then the kids, if they're working on level 1 cards or working on level 2 or working on level 3, they grab those cards and they use those cards. Now, and then they begin to act out, and that's what's really important about this. Kids act out the word problem. So I use a lot of different manipulatives for everybody. Remember, manipulatives are for everybody. So you say, there were 5 boys on the playground, right? So then the kids, I'm using Lakeshore kids for this. There were 5 boys on the playground, and there were 2 girls. And then I can ask the kids, how many kids were there all together, right? 5 boys and 2 girls. So that's the part whole story with the whole unknown. I could say there were 5 boys on the playground and then 2 girls came. And now how many kids are there? And that would be an add to result unknown. I could say there were 7 kids on the playground and 2 left. We would be acting this out. The kids read it and they act it out, right? I could say that there were 7 kids on the playground, 5 were boys, and the rest were girls. How many were girls? That's a part whole, part unknown. I could say there were 5 boys on the playground and there were 3 more boys than girls. How many girls were there? The kids have to kind of work with this and figure out if there were 5 boys and there were 3 more boys than girls. How many girls were there? So, or 7 kids and 3 more boys than girls, and there were 5 boys. So there's lots of ways to use manipulatives to get the kids to see what they're doing. But after I do that, in the same workstation, sometimes they're working with concrete, and then I would have them draw that same story that we just told out. There were 5 boys and there were 2 girls, right? How many kids were there all together? So they could, for a little while, in some bags are working with just concrete, and some bags are working with now drawing out the story, and then in other bags, they have to write the equation that goes along with that, right? They also have to write an equation with the symbol for the unknown starting in 1st grade. So here that they would put, an empty box, a smiley face, a heart. I also have the kids, like if we're looking for kids, I would have them put a K, or if we're looking for children, I'd have them put a C. Sometimes they use a symbol, a letter actually, for whatever the thing is that we're talking about. So that's part of what should be at your word problem workstation. You want to have the manipulatives, and you want to have the drawing, and you want to have kids working on equations. Other times I use, these are my favorite, they're again from Lakeshore, but you can make them. Go to Michael's and get the big beads. The big beads are kind of hard to find. You should look for them online too. And then there's just a thicker cord that's used in, so there's 20 beads, and the kids then act out the story. So you tell them these are their beads that they work with, right? And I have them start over here and then move to the left. So there are 5 boys on the playground, and the beads are in groups of 5 so the kids can summatize really easily. That means look without counting. So there are 5 boys and there are 2 girls. How many are there all together? So the kids can see that. But I could say there are 5 boys and there are some girls. Altogether there are 7. So the kids know, 5 plus 2 more is going to make 7, so there's 2 girls. So sometimes I use this, right? It's kind of like, it's a bead rack, right? It's different than a Rec and Rec, but it's kind of like a Rec and Rec. And so I would use that bead string. Now, other times I have the kids act out the story with markers, right? So sometimes they have to, they'll pull a card or whatever, and so then they'll say, well, this is just as a marker with fish. There were 5 fish, and then just as a marker, it has a little fish, the kids are into it. There are 5 fish, and then 2 more came. 2 more swam in. right? And so how many are there all together now, right? So using that just to grab their attention and get them to work. So using concrete and pictorial. Now, sometimes I have the kids work with the ladders. These ladders are off of Sparklebox. These ladders are out of Math Learning Center. You can make your own ladders, but then having kids fill out, figure out problems. There were 5 kids and 2 more came. How many are there now? Go to Sparklebox and print down their stuff. Make sure you get number ladders that are vertical and that you use number lines that are horizontal. You want to actually use both. And just alternate between that. Have the kids make their own number line. That's really huge and important that kids have their own number lines that they can work from. And then I also like to get the big foam stickers for the problem solving workstation so the kids can it's a physical manipulative, the kids can act it out. There were 4 animals and then 2 more came. How many are there now? Or there were 2 animals and then 2 animals and 1 left. How many is there? Or there were 3 animals and some left and now there's only 1. How many animals left? So the kids can really act out the story. That's super important to be able to act that story out. And we don't give kids enough time. We don't spend enough time letting them work with those concrete materials. And then after doing something like that, these are really fun. This is like kindergarten, first grade, where you make slider stories. You take an envelope, you cut it all open, and then you put stickers, and the kids tell stories. So there are 3 animals, and 1 more came. And now how many are there? Oh, there are 4. Or there were 5 animals and 1 went away. How many are there now? So, telling slider stories with different amounts of animals on the sliders is also really a good thing to do to get kids to understand word problems. So remember that word problems are leveled and that in your workstation you need the concrete and the pictorial. Kids need to be drawing and sketching. You don't want kids... I really kind of stray away from saying make a picture. I mean, they can make a picture, but I tell them I want you to do a sketch. Because remember that a sketch is quick. A picture could take 5 minutes to make a marble. A sketch is going to take 5 seconds. So you have to teach your kids to sketch out their ideas when they're trying to solve the word problems. But those are a few ideas that you can use when you are solving word problems. Now, in 2nd grade, when you start getting the larger word problems, I would use the bead strings. Everybody knows that I love bead strings. So I would do things like, there are, Juan has 30 marbles. He got 20 more for his birthday. How many does he have now, right? So those larger problems that you have to solve within 100, use the bead string for. It is excellent to use the bead string for that kind of stuff. So these are just some things. What I want you to understand is that it's not about just having one word problem that all the kids are working on at the same time. It's about having a variety of leveled word problems that kids are working on in their zone of proximal development up to the level that they're supposed to be at for their state. Now, in the Common Core, if you're using Common Core, in kindergarten it's 4 problems, in 1st grade it's 11, in 2nd grade it's 20, including the 5 multi-step. If you're in Texas, by 1st grade, you have to know all 15 of the add to and take from problems. And I'm including the harder versions of the compare problems. So it just depends what your state standards say in terms of the levels that the kids have to know. But they're all leveled, and your word problem workstation at some point should be leveled. You don't have to do it right away. Some people get very overwhelmed by it. So, start easy. Just start. Start small. Maybe you say, what I'm going to work on more than leveling right now is I'm going to work on trying to get concrete, pictorial, and abstract in the station. And that's certainly a good place to start. So just start and start small. And remember, if you have questions in the course, go to the discussion board and please ask them. Happy mathing.